let's begin then. We're gonna take our, and if something happens with the audio in the middle of class, just shout at me so that I can fix it. You'll have to unmute yourself, and you can keep yourself unmuted. It looks like it's just me and you. We're gonna have either a massage ball or a foam roller for this first little bit, just using these tools to give a little gentle outer tissue massage for the seat. I'm gonna try this on my back because I think it'll offload the intensity a little bit. So we're gonna start with the hips and the shoulders grounded along with the head, and then bridge up just enough to get your foam roller or your ball underneath your pelvis. If you're using a ball, you're gonna go on the right glutes. And if you're using a foam roller, just put that thing underneath you and then tip your pelvis so that the left side is lifted away from the roller and the right glute is on. Now your legs are gonna move a little bit like windshield wipers to the right. And then you're just gonna let yourself scrub side to side, all across the medial and lateral border of the right glute muscles. I personally feel like the ball is quite a bit more intense. This foam roller feels quite nice. And then let's lift and shift over to the left side. And then let's just bridge up and lift our hips just off the roller, just off the ball. Connecting to that powerful strength on the glute muscles, and maybe even noticing where your hamstrings connect to your pelvis at that ischial tuberosity, and thinking of kind of scooping under and curling your tailbone as you tuck under with your pelvis. You can slide that object out from underneath you and lay your body down. Knees are gonna stay bent. And then we'll let the legs rock side to side. You can let your pelvis move too, so it feels a little bit like a soft spine twist. Just a really gentle range of motion here, not too much. And then find a neutral pelvis, and we'll move through those little clock-like motions. Seeing if you can move on the sacrum around in a circle, thinking about the digits on your clock face. And it doesn't really matter which way you head first, whether it's clockwise or counter. We'll do 2 more in this direction, and then go the other way. We'll try to find the middle ground. What feels like you're neutral. Arms can be beside you. Tuck and roll your way up to a bridge pose. And then roll back down. Raise your legs so that your knees land just over your hips. And then you're gonna do a little marching motion with just the legs. Tap one heel or toe to the ground, maintain neutral spine, and then tap the other heel to the ground, maintain neutral spine. Both feet are gonna land, and then we're gonna go back to the bridge. Tuck and roll from the bottom up to the top. And then from the top to the bottom, we'll roll back down to neutral. Back ribs are gonna stay heavy into your mat, and we'll reverse that tabletop again. March the legs. One each side. Reset for a bridge. Tuck and roll. Travel down slow, segmentally, Reversing back to the flipped upside down tabletop. This time we're gonna march the legs for a few more repetitions. So seeking out to neutralize the trunk. The lumbar might be away from the ground in your neutral, so you'll just try to preserve that curve without exaggerating it. I like to think of the back ribs grounding. That really helps my low back position. Let's do one more on each side with the march. And then as you bring your knees back over your hips, take your hands to the front side of your thighs and start to drive your legs back into your hands as your hands try to push your legs away from you. Feeling for that reflexive core. Now the left leg can just rest however it wants to, bent or straight. We'll snuggle this right leg in a little bit closer and twirl the ankle. Reverse. And switch it out. Just simple ankle rotation for the left side. Return your feet to your mat. Heel toe them a little wider again, maybe a little wider than the hip width. And then do a mini crunch up so that you can get onto your forearms. Send your elbows back a little bit so they're directly below your shoulders, more or less. And we're gonna revisit our wiper motion with the hips turning. Maybe exaggerating for these next couple rounds that internal rotation, so that your knee is traveling kind of towards the opposite front corner or edge of your mat. Let's take the legs all the way to the right and just open and close left leg a few times. And then sweep to the left, open and close the right leg. Thinking of drawing your shoulders down and together. Bring your legs back to center. Push with your hands and try to press up to this kind of seated version of reverse tabletop. And we're gonna do just that. So for you, you might like to turn your fingers outward. That might change the wrist component of this a little bit. You can also turn your hands all the way behind you or towards you. Power up your feet. Lift your hips off the ground a little or a lot. And then lower your seat. Windshield wiper legs to the right, gaze turns to the left. Through the middle and then switch it out. Back to center, power up the back side, push the hips high, reverse tabletop, lower down. Twist legs right, gaze left. Legs left, gaze right. And then we're gonna do one more of those tabletop lifts and lower down. Now you can keep your legs bent like this, or you can slowly lower your spine back to the ground with straight legs. I'm actually gonna use my hands to help me a little bit. I've already done several of these and I'm kind of tired. Once you get to your back, head and shoulders will lift. Draw your thighs in to make yourself into a cannonball tuck. Start to rock, front to back. Thinking of the bottom of the rocking chair. The low back likes to be kind of a straight line, so you're trying to scoop and hollow into the lumbar. Now, next time you rock up, we'll extend the right leg straight and plant your left foot. Take your right hand beside you, reverse tabletop with the left knee bent and the right leg straight. There it is. And then lower down and lay back down, rolling. Come back to the cannonball, tuck and roll, just a couple. And then you're gonna extend left leg straight, bend your right leg, ground. Left hand is also your foundation. Lift a little bit and then lower down. We're gonna go back to the other side, rock and roll. Right leg extends, left leg bends. This time, right hand, left foot foundational. This whole right limb, we're gonna try to lift it up and lower it down. Good. Last time to the left. Couple of rolls. Left leg is straight now, right foot is planted, left hand beside you. Maybe the whole leg lifts as you push into the right hand and the left foot. Excellent. Okay, this is gonna take us into our 90-90 sit, or our Z sit. Left leg is out in front, right knee is turned inward. And you could either pull your heels closer to your body, or you could make it more like that pinwheel stagger. A block underneath the right hip will give you a little more freedom in the right hip. So if you're feeling pinchy in the right anterior hip, elevating a little bit will help. Arms are gonna come out to a T. And first we're gonna turn the chest towards that front leg knee. Try to button up your ribs. And then you're gonna rotate the other direction. You're just breathing in a way that feels right for you. So try to turn your sternum towards your right toes and then towards your left knee. Again, towards the right toes and towards the left knee. This one, we're gonna turn to the right toes, let the arms rest, and try to stay super tall in the back line, and then rotate the upper body as much as we can towards that trailing leg. Reverse the twist, and you can switch out your legs. Now the right leg is going to be your leading leg. Your left thigh is turning inward. Feel free to prop up the right hip if your left front hip is a little crowded. Arms out to a T to start. As upright as we can be without suffering. Turn towards your right knee. Now chest turns towards the left toes. Leading with the core, the arms can follow along. We'll do a couple more. Turn back to the right one last time, and then you're gonna hold that twist towards your trailing leg and let your shoulders rest wherever they wanna land. Brilliant. Okay, next stop. You might want your yoga blocks. They could be helpful. I'm going to use mine on the tall side. You're going to start on your shins. And your right leg is going to move forward in space, kind of like you would for pigeon, but way less in terms of rotation. So your leg might even stay neutral. And then your left knee is going to slide back a little bit. So we have an asymmetrical stance, kind of a split stance, hands to the blocks. And now we're going to tuck and untuck the pelvic region, kind of like we do for cat-cow, as we keep the upper body quiet. Front core contracting to tuck under. Back core contracting to tip your pelvis forward and come into that lumbar extension. Pressing down through the front shin, top of the foot maybe, same goes for the back leg. Let's do one more tuck and untuck. And then bring your knees and switch them out. Left leg's coming forward, right leg's gonna drive back a little bit. We just have a mild split stance. That front hip can be slightly turned out or neutral. Stabilize the thoracic and mobilize below. Tuck, untuck. Last two. Next stop will be our forearm tabletop. Come onto the elbows. You could hold your own hand if you like to make a little basket with your hand. And this time we're going to try to move the pelvis laterally. So it's going to feel a little bit like a side crunch, and on the first level we just will keep the shoulders where they are and try to pull your left hip bone towards your lowest left rib cage without changing the upper body. And then you're going to kind of wag your tail to the right, shortening up the right side waist without pulling the shoulder down. Let's do that one just one more time. It's more of that lower body lateral crunch to the left and to the right. Come back to neutral. And now we're going to try to pull just the left shoulder back towards the pelvis. Push to neutral, pull the right shoulder back towards the pelvis. So it's very subtle, a lot smaller movement. Let's do it again. Tuck the left shoulder blade down and then kind of tilt to the right. Now putting that together, we'll go left hip towards the ribs and left shoulder drawing back. The head might follow. Lateral crunch left, back to center neutral. And those 2 points trying to come together now on the right side. Back to the center. Let's do 2 more like that, each direction. Feeling both the shoulder and the pelvis trying to draw towards each other. Last set. And then if the knees are getting a little bit cranky in terms of not being padded, you can roll your mat up in the middle and pad your knees a little bit. Probably going to want yoga blocks for this next bit as well. Left knee is going to stay down underneath your hips and your right leg's going to step forward. So a little half kneel position. Turn your left toes to the back side of your mat, the long side, so that this left front hip is facing forward towards that long side of your mat. So it feels kind of like a kneeling warrior two. Yeah. Right toes are going to still face the short edge of your mat. Blocks out wide like wings. And then you're going to think reverse warrior. Maybe the left hand touches down, maybe it doesn't. Yeah. And then you're going to think towards side angle, but more core, less shoulder. If the block touches, great, but we're not forcing it. And then come back to that vertical spine. Stay nice and tall. Slight tuck of the tail. Button up your low ribs down. And then you're going to turn your chest towards the front leg knee as much as possible. Reverse out. We're going to do that set one more time. A reverse warrior-like shape, lateral stretch left. Lateral stretch right. Back to that column, nice and tall. Rotation right. Now from here, we're going to do a fun little pivot. So you're going to keep your chest facing the front. Heel toe your right foot a little bit wider to the right. And then turn on your left knee so your toes point to the back of the mat. You can set your right block down. Continue to turn your chest open to the right side in a low lunge twist. Option to tuck your back toes and get off of that left knee if you want. 2 hands to the floor or the blocks, you're in a low lunge. The next stop is going to be to stand on this right leg. So a shorter stance might make sense. Push the floor away and try to stand up on your right leg. Option 1, just stand up. Option 2, make it a little trickier. Kick your leg up into your hands. So you're feeling your left hip flexors fire up. Just a couple more breaths here. Step your feet back to the ground, and then you're just going to do a walk in place pedal, so your hips dance a little side to side like a sassy hips. Bend your knees a little more, tip forward, and just dangle over your legs. All right, next set. You can just step your right leg backwards and bring your right knee down onto your mat, underneath your hip. And then you're gonna start to turn. So the right toes turn behind you, and the left leg is in a kneeling warrior two position. So you could flip the other way if you really want to see, but hopefully I can guide you so that you don't have to crane your neck. Find that open pelvis position to the long side, arms stretched wide with the blocks. And we're leaning to the right first, so it's like reverse warrior. And now towards the inside of the left leg, moving from the core first, and the shoulders can move a little bit if they want to as well. Come back to straight up tall. Try to rotate that whole upper body towards your left leg as you give your right glutes a squeeze. We'll do it again. Reverse, warrior shape. Side core. Now towards the side angle pose. Come back to the tall spine. Now twist towards your left leg. Maximize that motion first. And then you're gonna pivot on the right leg, heel toe your left foot out more, set your right block next to your left foot, the left block can go away. Once again, opening up to that kneeling low lunge with that twist. Tuck your back toes, raise your knee if you want. Awesome. Hands to blocks or the ground. Maybe a little bit shorter stance. And you're gonna kind of push and pull with the legs. The left leg is both pushing down, but it's also thinking of pulling backwards. And you're really gonna push off those back toes to come up to your standing position. Now think of touching the ceiling with your right thigh bone, but use your hands to push against that effort so your hip flexors wake up. One more breath. Stand on your two legs. Find that pedal in place. A little sassy hip move. And then neutralize everything. Tip your pelvis forward and fold over your legs. Step back. We're gonna start on all fours, but then you're gonna come to the forearms again. So this is gonna feel different once we get the forearms to the ground. We're also gonna tuck the chin and place the very top of our head at the crown just to barely touch the ground. Or maybe you just push into the arms so much that your head is hovering, but you're feeling cat pose in your upper back. So you're really rounding, looking back towards your big toes. Tuck and untuck your pelvis. It's gonna be a lot smaller than normal because we are in effect limiting movement of the upper back because of how we have our head. Tuck and untuck. Tuck and untuck. Last one. Awesome. Let's take a down dog stretch. Let's see how that feels on that back line stretch. Maybe we can wiggle and pedal a little bit. And then we're actually going to repeat that whole sequence pretty much the same way. Start on the shins and the knees. Step your right foot through. You can pivot while you're low if that helps you. Turn the left toes to the right side of your mat. Come up to that kneeling warrior two shape. Adding in a little bit of a stretch for this left hip as we kind of glide the hips forward and back. Pull forward, push back. Last one like that. And then you're going to stack the knee, the hip, and the shoulder. Reverse the warrior. Towards a side angle pose. Vertical spine. twist your chest towards the front leg side. Untwist, and we'll do that again. Reverse the warrior. Yep, and then right arm inside, side angle-ish. Straighten up, find that column, rotate your chest to the right, heel toe your right foot a little bit wider to the right, and then as you lift and pivot, that left hand's gonna come to your block or the floor, tuck your back toes under and raise your knee off the ground for a runner's twist. Two hands to the floor. Shorten your stance if that will help you, and then stand up on the right leg. Bring the left knee ahead of the hip, kick up and push down in resistance. Now instead of coming to mountain pose, we're just gonna try to reverse out of all of this. So let your arms rest beside you, and they can organize however they need to for the transition. Start to bend a little bit into that right leg, and then step your left toes back. Bring your left knee to the ground, and then reset, maybe just coming back to tabletop first, and then find the down dog. Stretch high with your hips. Push through your shoulders, pull your bum up. Maybe a slight reach of the tailbone or the sitting bones. Lower down to the shins. Step your left foot through. The left hand might need to leave the floor to make that happen. And then let's find that open pivot. So the pelvis is facing to the long side. Find your warrior arms. Left arm high, right arm relaxes. We're taking that reverse warrior shape, side flexion. Now to the right, left arm reaches high. Come up tall. Twist your chest towards your front leg. Keep squeezing the right glute under. Let's do just that part again. We're gonna add in these little hip pulls. Let your pelvis move forward first and then push back. I forgot this guy on this side. Let's just do a few. Last one. And we'll go reverse warrior. Stretch through the left side. And then that side angle-like shape, stretch through the right side. Bring yourself up, find that good strong rotation towards the front leg side. Once that maxes out, heel toe your left foot a little wider. Right hand comes down as you pivot the back hip to neutral, tuck toes, raise your knee, runner's twist. Yeah, and reset your hands down. Shorten stance if you like, pushing to stand up on your left leg. And then find that good front hip kick. Knee to the sky, arms trying to push to the floor. A slow step back with the right leg. You can tip your body forward to help with the balance. Once the toes land, rebend your knee, step it back. And then some kind of child's pose. You could be on your forearms, or you could let the heart stretch between the legs, nice and low, forehead to the mat. Create a little softness around your neck in that inner shoulder region. Filling up the backside with your inhales, and then trickle out real slow. Come up out of your child's pose, but not all the way to tabletop. So you're going to walk the hands back a little bit, but wrists are still going to be ahead of the shoulders. And now you're going to try to keep your pelvis really still and try to get some upper back flexion and extension happening right from that chest plate area to right behind the heart and the shoulder blades. Well, it's okay if the shoulders move here, of course, but maybe we focus our attention just on the spine for a few tries. And then let's just find a seat. You can sit on your block. You can sit on the floor or kneel. Whatever will allow your spine to be the most supported. And see if we can still move the pelvis a little bit relative to the upper body. It almost can feel a little bit like a hula hoop. And then go the other way. It's pretty subtle. Now set the pelvis firmly, and you're going to do the same thing with the upper torso, thinking of a little bit of a swoop in the front, in the back, and in the sides. Just a gentle spiral action. Reverse it. Finally settling into just like a 30-second or so sit. Observe your breathing. Visualize your torso as if it were a cylinder, that breath originating right in the center and expanding outward in equal pressure. Free the belly to move as much as it wants. No restriction. Can you make some space in between the exhale and the new breath? Just a moment or two in that pause. All I have for you today, everybody. Thanks for being here. Hope you have an awesome week. I will see you tomorrow night. It's going to be a little bit of a different scene on Tuesday night and Friday morning because I will not be home, but I'm still going to be having classes. So I will see you then. Thanks for coming.